to share with you this 1099 tax deduction tracker that I sell on Etsy and also my own website. If you purchase this on my own website, it will be a little bit cheaper and you get 10% discount. So check out the link in the description. So the reason why I built this tax deduction tracker is because I used to be a tax staff. So I used to prepare tax returns for freelancer and contractors. And one thing I noticed back then was that most of the freelancer, they usually pay a lot of money to get their return completed, mainly because they don't have a tracker, or they don't have a way of telling how much money that they earn. So, one time I remember someone called in and said, hey, could you do my return? And this is how much money I think I made and how much money I think I expensed, right? So that was a lot of work on my end. And my rate at that point was, I think, about $75 an hour. I didn't get paid that much, but that was the rate that the firm charged out for my time. And so, it was a lot of back and forth calling with the client just to get the receipts and make sure to get the record correctly. And so I think that client ended up paying about $5,000-$6,000 just for a simple return. So that's why I built this tracker. So if you're a freelancer or you're just a small business owner, you can track your own income and expenses and then keep records of those receipts so that, tax season come, you have everything organized. And also if there's any questions or concern, you can just give them this file, right? So it's easier to work with and you'll take less time and thereby save you a lot of money to do your tax return. So let me show you how it works. So if you purchase this template, it works with Google Sheet and Excel. So right now I'm showing it to you in Google Sheet, but Excel should work the same way. So you purchase this item, you get 10 tabs. The very first tab is for you to set up your category. So here, the main category is like the income and expense. So this will go into your financial statement. So these are the generic income and expense that I have set up. But if yours is different, you can definitely change it, right? So you can change this like service income or whatnot, right? But I'll just put it back as consulting. But if you have any description that you want to change, you can definitely change it here and it will flow to other parts of this spreadsheet. And then here is the subcategory. So for example, if you have home office expense, a subcategory of that will be like a printer expense, right? Or a utility expense, right? So you can adjust that as much as you like here. And then support documentation type is what are the support that you have for, your income and expenses? Some of it will be like bills, invoices, bank statement. And if you have more than that, then you can add as much as you want and you can delete this as well. These items here, they will be part of a drop-down menu in the income and expense tracker. All right, so the next tab is the income tracker. So this is where you would log all your income for your work. So here you can first log in the date. So you put as much date as you need. It supports multi-year. So you can go as much as 10, 20 years. It doesn't matter. It will support multi-year. And then here you can put the source, your client, and then you can pick the category. So this category here comes from the category setup that you put here. So as you can see, anything that you put here would be part of the category here. And then you can pick a subcategory. And here you can put the income that you receive for that date, right? And for that work. And then here, if you sell something on a platform where they take a certain percentage or fee, then you can subtract that out, right? Because this is fee that you paid. So this is your net income that you receive for that work. And then here you can log or put a check mark to see if you receive it or not. And then the documentation support will be, if you send an invoice to your client and then they paid it, that's your support. And where did you save the support? Have you saved it? And then where did you save it here? So you can put, Google Drive, OneDrive, or you can put, put a note that you put in a folder somewhere in your office. And then here, like notes and comments that you have any notes and comments on. Okay. And then expense tracker here. Same thing, you just put the date, description, pick the category and then the subcategory, the total expense. And here is the percentage of business use. So this is the total expense that you use for your home office for the printer purchase. And of that 3,100, how much percentage of that did you use for your office, right? If you use just 90%, then it will just take 90% of this as the business deduction, because the other 10% you're using it for personal use. So that's not part of business, right? And then for anything that you don't have percentage, it just recognizes that as 100% being business expense. So for example, I spent $2,500 for business travel here, and that just business travel, right? There's no personal use, so I didn't put a percentage, so it understood that the total $2,500 is business expense, so that is fully deductible. And then here you can put your business mileage and non-business mileage. So the non-business mileage, let's say I travel a total of 400 miles and 100 of that is personal use, and then the other 300 is related to business, right? And then at the end of the year, you can sum this whole thing up and you can see how much business miles you use, and then subtract that out in your tax return as a business deduction. And here you can have support document, what are the type of support document that you have for this transaction, and then did you save the document and where did you save it, and then here you can put notes as well. All right. So you can see anything that's graded out, it automatically calculates that information for you, and you just put the data into the white cell. All right. So quarterly tax financial, this is where it helps you estimate your state and federal tax, so you can make sure that you pay your quarterly estimate on time. So here, you need to input in your begin date and end date for each quarter. So each business have different begin and end date quarter. So whatever you input in here, the begin and end date, it will grab that data from the income and expense tab, right? So for example, if you put in your quarter one as 1/1/2035 to 3/31/2035, you can see it's grabbing all that data for that dates that you input in here for Q1. So it'll grab the total of from January to March, end of March for the income tab, and then for the expense, it'll just grab that all the amount for these dates as well. So if you change it, right, like you put 6/1/2035, and then August, right? It'll grab the data for these two periods, okay? So it's really up to you, your business, because some business starts with different dates, and then some business starts in a calendar year, some business starts in June. So it's a flexibility of this spreadsheet here. And as you can see, it pulls in the income and expense based on the date that you've input, and then it automatically calculates the net income. And then you can put in your state tax rate and your federal tax rate, and then from there it'll calculate your estimated taxes, and then you can put the due date and whether you paid it or not, if you paid, the date that you paid, and the confirmation number. And also same thing here with the federal return. So once you input all the information, you can check to see each quarter, right? So like quarter one, it says here you paid because you check marked it, right? And then here it'll tell you for state tax, when is it due? April 15, because you put there April 15, and for federal, it says 4/16, right? And then for Q2, you can see because it's not check marked and it's not paid, so it says that these are due. So and then you also have a chart up here to show you the net profit and estimated taxes. And then down here is the cool part, because this is the financial statements. It's a profit and loss statement. It automatically pulls data based on the month and the year that you selected. So if your business starts in June, you can start it in June. So you can see it starts in June. And if you want to look for data from 2035, you can. So you can you can select any month. So because I didn't put any data for 2025, you can see it zero out, right? But if I pick 2035, which is all the data that I input in for 2035 as a mock-up, you can see it start pulling the data, okay? So this is an automatically generated profit and loss statement. All right, and then the next cool tab is the dynamic profit and loss statement. So here you can just print out this financial statement and give it to your accountant during tax time, or you can use it to prepare your own tax return as well, right? So here you can pick any month you want to look at. So let's say you want to pick January. It'll just grab data for January, and it'll give you supplemental information on your business mileage for that month. So let's say you want to look for a year to date. So it'll tell you for year to date, it'll just grab all the values for the year to date, right? So, and then you can just print out this financial statement here and then give it to your tax accountant, or you can use it to do your tax return, right? So just select the cell, hit print, and then selected cell here, and then there you go. you have a financial statement. All right. And then lastly is the dashboard. So this dashboard here is pretty unique in that sense that it's a annual dashboard and a multi-year dashboard. So here, if I pick the year 2035, it gives me all the data for that year, right? Because I inputted all the data for 2035. If I pick 2036, there's going to be zero data because I didn't put any data for 2036. But if I pick 2035, it'll populate. So you can see here, first of all, it shows you the net income after your tax deductible expenses and estimated taxes. So this is your net profit, right, for the entire year. And then here you can see the expense documentation saved. So I've only saved about 24%. So this is pretty bad. Usually you expect like 100%. And then tax deductible expenses, 23,000. And then business mileage is 8,700 for the year. And then days until tax day is just counting the days based on today's date and this date here, right? So you change this date to like another year, another date within this year, which is 2025. You're going to see it just counting that date, right? 2025, actually, right there, all right? And then here it tells you the estimated taxes for your state and federal taxes for the entire year. And then here's the expense deduction by category. So we'll break this down by percentage. And then down here, you can see your total expense versus your deductible expenses per month. So it's a very neat dashboard and also tracker in a sense that, it has everything you need to prepare your tax return at year end. So, if you're interested in this item, check it out. Again, I put the link in the description. So if you have any questions or concern, please shoot me an email, and thank you so much for watching.